CataractCoach.com, alignment of the toric axis and centration of the diffractive rings on the same lens. This, of course, is a multifocal toric lens. So the lens, if we zoom in on it, you'll see there are 3 dots on either side of the haptic-optic junction. That's for alignment of the toric power. And then if we tilt the lens just so, you'll see the diffractive rings on the surface of the optic as well. And that's to split the incoming light into both a near and far point. These same principles apply for an extended depth of field lens with diffractive rings. We need to line it up just correct so that we have the toric marks lined up on the steep axis of the cornea, and we have the diffractive rings centered in the pupil. And we can measure that with the Purkinje images. So we're placing the lens here in the injector. We all know how to do this, a single piece acrylic lens. We'll fold over that leading haptic, place the optic in there, and then put the trailing haptic on top of the optic as well. Now we'll place it into the injector, and you notice we have both haptics now on top of the IOL optic. Click that in. In this case, we are doing a surgeon-loaded lens, so I'm doing it under the microscope so that we can see. Let's zoom in here now and place the lens in the capsular bag. There's the capsular axis. Capsular bag is empty and filled with now viscoelastic. No lens materials left. So we'll get the lens, start putting the tip inside, and we'll slowly deliver it inside the eye. We've also marked the cornea with our steep axis so we know where to place that. We'll dial the lens in now, get both haptics open. Now notice how I'm turning the lens and placing those toric marks a clock hour or so before I want it. That's important because the lens rotates much better clockwise. And so I want to place it so that those marks are before a clock hour, maybe even 2 clock hours before the area that I want. There we go. That looks pretty good. Now, with the toric lens, we certainly need to go behind the IOL to remove viscoelastic. That'll help the lens adhere to the capsule and prevent it from slipping. I do this on every case, but certainly in a toric lens, it's a really important issue. So we'll lift up the lens optic, go behind it, and we can evacuate out all that viscoelastic. And now from the front surface of the lens as well. And again, if there's any remainder, we got to go back there. You really have to remove this. Now, this hydrophobic acrylic material is a little bit tacky, so the benefit there is it'll adhere slightly to the capsular bag, so it tends to stay where we place it. So again, removing the rest of the viscoelastic now from the anterior chamber, going all around here. And we're, of course, using a high vacuum, high flow setting. Important to look at the eye and see the Purkinje images. We have a first Purkinje image and a fourth Purkinje image. So now we'll rotate the lens here, and let's first line up the toric axis. So we'll line up the toric axis. You should place this on the steep corneal axis, where you'd like it. And for me, it's just so. And now pay attention to the Purkinje images. So the 3 dots on the center. Now we want to line up both Purkinje images right there with the center diffractive ring on the IOL. That looks great. Remember of those 2 Purkinje images, the one that's on top of your screen now, the whiter looking light, is the first Purkinje image, and the inverted one that looks slightly yellow tinted due to the IOL, that's the 4th Purkinje image. And if we have both of those lined up, along with the central zone of the diffractive rings, then I know that the lens centration is great. And then the toric marks show me that the lens is on the correct steep axis as well. So we'll finish up the case here and things will go great. So important lesson for you, if you're doing a multifocal toric lens, remember you must line up both the toric axis and you must center the diffractive rings.